300 moves online.
Incredible.
And he beat the computer on time. Simply extraordinary, as they're off.
I was going to say, we're expecting some crazy openings.
And
we have Trumpovsky in this game.
First to deliver a surprise. And D7, D5.
Which matters a lot in this time control. You don't have time to spend in the opening.
Exactly.
Figuring out what setup would work best for you, because then you'll be down 2 minutes, and that's pretty much it.
Exactly. E7, E6, an indication that he's perhaps happy to play the black side of a Queen's Gambit declined was, and indeed, Bishop E7.
Is there any benefit to him not having knight on F3 yet?
Somewhat, but I think Hikaru specifically played the move Bishop G5 to get, to avoid, pardon me, the Queen's Gambit accepted.
I see.
Yeah, because MVL has been playing the Queen's Gambit accepted incredibly well, and not many players have been able to prove an advantage with the white pieces.
It's
so
too
now,
positional, not really Hikaru style, maybe.
Yeah, and now we do have, as you were about to point out, the benefit of not having developed the knight to F3 early, but we can develop it to E2, and yes, there is a benefit that it does allow us to go for the center break, F3 and E4.
Right, the two main plans here is F3 and E4, and queenside minority attack with A3, B4.
And we see something completely different. H2, H3. Okay, you take the G4 square under control. It intimates I might be playing for knight F3 as well as G2, G4. Actually, as white, I always like the move Queen C2, hitting the pawn on H7 and trying to provoke H6, knight E8. Now we're in something completely different.
I see in the database there's only one game so far, and we're in the new position after Bishop D6.
Knight E8.
This idea of playing knight E8 has been becoming a bit of a trendy thing to do, because D6, which is where this knight eventually ends up, is generally accepted to be a very good square for it. And I think maybe what Hikaru is doing is the explanation for H3, because he is now saying, yes, I will accept the bishop trade, but I will have a very nice queen on F4, which, had we developed the knight first, Queen F3 would have simply be illegal, whichever square we chose. So perhaps this is the one way to explain the early H3 and keeping the knight on G1.
Here white has an interesting choice. He can go queen takes D6, knight takes D6, B2, B4, then you get a minority attack, but at the cost of trading queens.
I like Hikaru's choice.
Yeah, I was about to say. Or the second choice is you could go queen H4, keeping queens on the board, threatening to deliver a checkmate threat.
I'm going to predict he's going to castle long and go all in on the king side with G4 and...
I understand, and I like the pawn storms as well, but when you castle queenside and you go storming away, well, what's your queen doing on H4? Your queen might say, well, right. I should be on G2. I should be playing
it's currently
G4.
Provoking a hook, right? It's asking black to actually make a pawn move on the king side, which could be useful later.
Yeah, he just did, and that is a committal move for sure. And
I thought he was going to go knight E2 still.
Well, he's got potential ideas of knight G5.
And black will have to play knight F6, because H5 would be weakening the king side too
then
much.
G4, and your queen is brilliant.
Absolutely.
But I do like knight G5, knight to F6.
Which knight, by the way?
I was thinking D knight, so the other knight can go to C7, E6
exactly.
in the future.
Yeah, and this is what maybe it's even smarter the way Hikaru is doing it, and this is what I was going to ask. Can we then play queen H6 and just go for some kind of H4, H5 and mate?
Mate.
Just mate.
Yeah.
Just mate.
A very straightforward idea.
I think the queen H6 did have this one drawback, though. It did invite the move queen F6. Now knight G5 can be met by, and look at this, combining everywhere. Normally, it's an idea you very rarely get away with. That is playing on both sides of the board. Sometimes you get overstretched.
It works when your opponent has no counterplay at all, but I wouldn't say that about black's position here.
Not at all. Black does have a very clear idea. He wants to play rook to E8. I was about to say, he
E5.
wants to play rook to e8 and queen g7, but b4, b5, with the king still in the center?
And the knight on c3 is hanging also, so, well, I can't play c5 because of knight d5, but how about knight c5?
Knight c5 looks
Yeah.
intriguing. Knight
Get the
c5 with
knight.
the idea to jump into the center with knight e4, give me your bishop with check, and in case you take, well, you just did me a very solid favor indeed.
Yeah.
Queen takes c3 check. We're not likely to see that variation, but b5, inviting knight c5. Technically, you're very alert today. What's going on? Nice, Nasi. That's
Thank
a good
you.
one.
Yeah, I think Hikaru has a lot of pressure. But
It's still in the building stages,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. But knight c5 does have my attention, and I think
I have it on the board.
good spot.
Would you immediately play knight e4 or try bishop f5? Depending on, of course, where white's bishop goes. Bishop c2, let's say.
Yeah, bishop c2, bishop f5. I'm a little bit worried about knight g5 in that case.
Queen g7?
I'll trade queens
Oh,
and
the
then I'll
knight
take
is
the
actually
knight.
very good.
Yeah, exactly. So bishop c2, you may have to jump to e4. I don't know if you have to. Well, then I could take and knight g5 again.
Right.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and Biel has to be careful to not leave the knight hanging for too long.
Right, bishop c2, Hikaru is moving. What we've been talking about is that white has a threat of playing knight to g5, threatening checkmate, provoking the queen to return, but then after a queen trade, the knight is whoa, that loses a
Knight
piece.
No, there's queen
How?
h8. I think he's planning to go queen h8.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
queen
It
h8.
looks very ugly, but it does exist as an option.
Thank you. What Peter is saying and what I have missed is that after captures, knight g5, threatening checkmate, there's still queen h8, and because this rook is hanging with a check, I can't just happily gobble a
I
piece.
still have knight h7. However, I am pinned.
I'm walking into that pin, right? Well, he did capture on b5, and now
Yeah, rook b1
knight
seems
g5.
logical. Knight h7, knight h6, I think, might be a bit of an issue.
Right. I like rook b1. First of all, you're winning back your pawn, very important, and you're doing it with a gain of a tempo, I mean to say.
Tempo and a pawn, right?
Tempo and a pawn.
Because I have to move my knight and then he can take on b5.
The one issue white has is he still is looking to get in a very, very important king safety move, castles.
And this is surprising, but Hikaru's down on the clock. MVL right now has 35-second advantage.
He's thinking about rook b1, but something else has got his attention. What
Maybe
could
he
be
still
that?
wants, sorry, h4, h5?
Queen takes h7? h4, h5.
Oh,
h4, h5. Ooh.
we could still try to play for mate, right?
Exactly. First of all, you've got the minority attack on the one hand, but then you do have h4, h5. Ooh. Intriguing.
My guess would be after h4, black moves the knight, and on h5,
Trades.
queen g7. But it might be a little late, because I can take on g6 immediately
Right.
and have some in-between moves.
But for a blitz game, this is one of the longest things.
And he goes for it.
Goes for it. He doesn't play rook b1. Rook b1 would have been a comfortable. White would have comfortably recaptured his pawn. Peter, that upped the ante. Let's just
Absolutely,
say.
yeah. Absolutely.
What did you think? Would you have gone for rook b1 or the gusto, going for the gusto?
It's a very attractive idea because black is still very undeveloped. You see Hikaru is combining it with the idea of playing against the d5 pawn as well. Bishop b3 is a very nice touch. He also wants to provoke rook d8, and after rook d8, I think he will very happily play h5, safe in the knowledge that if black takes on g5, queen takes g5, also attacks that rook on d8.
Here we go.
There's plenty
H5.
of compensation. I like what he's doing. He could have maybe done it faster, but it was an important decision, so I understand why he burned time on it.
But
And he's confident that no matter how little time he has, he can play fast.
Hikaru is
That's
a
it.
blitz demon. But this slow move, if I can use that term, rook c1, has given MVL the opportunity to play queen g7, trade queens, and totally stop white's kingside attack.
Went for it. Now the game, extra pawn. However, it's double pawns. And black's bishop's not very happy on c8 at the moment.
No, it's not. But there is a 3-1 majority on the queen side, don't forget. And those pawns, you know, sometimes you can go a5, b4, b3.
And then a3.
And a3, and away
They
you
can
go.
move really fast.
They can. I would probably include the move b7, b6 myself, just to get white to play an extra move. You know, like, you're going to win your pawn back. I'm not going to really bother about that, but I kind of want you to invest a little bit more time before you do it. So probably b6 for me, but Peter, weigh in on this. How do you like this ending? And who do you like?
Well, I like the side with more pawns, but not dramatically. I think white definitely has very, very good compensation. The bishop on b3 is much more active than bishop on e6, pushing those passes. I like a3, by the way.
You do?
I think it's a good move. I think it stops b5, b4 from being played comfortably, because now it's either a pawn sacrifice, so you have to create all
Double
of these
pawns.
weaknesses. Which,
Yeah.
and it feels like this could very easily become very dangerous for black. If you lose control at some point and you lose the b4 pawn, you're strategically, it's sort of the very, very classical kind of a minority attack outcome where black is left with b6 and d5 against the white pure structure going from d4 to h4 all the way.
Exactly.
But one thing MVL did correctly, he now has one active rook on a1, which white has to, although, yeah, on rook b1, probably was required because before was hanging, but you don't trade your one active rook happily here. The one on d6 is unlikely to ever have an active square in this game.
I was just a little bit worried about the bishop. Maybe g2, g4, that last moment. The bishop didn't have many squares on the diagonal. On the other hand, bishop a2 was maybe a way of escaping out of the little trap.
Yeah, so, I like gaining space on the king side. I think Hikaru knows what he's supposed to do.
Clock times between these two.
15 seconds, 10 seconds, so...
Wow, so despite that 1 minute thing...
MVL caught up.
Bigly.
Can white win the b4 pawn straight away?
He's going for it.
Bishop
Rook.
goes to b7 maybe? Okay.
You know, he does
I
win
think
the
MVL...
should...
Yes, plans to just... Oh, never mind.
Slightly better for white. It's just a little bit more comfortable. You can play for e... Whoa, he didn't go... Yeah, sorry.
Bishop b5,
rook b6.
Yeah.
I blundered. I think it's time to go for e4. I think white is enjoying his space.
Hikaru's considering right now repeat moves or go for... Then he goes
No, he's
for
never
e4.
repeating here. I don't think he runs any risks whatsoever. It's actually quite pleasant, these types of positions.
Meanwhile, a little update. Fabi has won his game against Aronian.
Ooh.
We have a bishop endgame.
And f6.
So white has the central pawns, black has the corner pawns.
Exactly. Should be a draw, just because it takes a while to win these pawns.
And also, Hikaru has no risk. He can always sack the bishop for the g-pawn.
E6 check did not work, by the way. He would have played king e7, given up the bishop.
E6 was working.
E7 and bishop h5 mate? No, he's accepted.
No,
draw.
it's a draw, yes.
Yeah.
Also, Noderberg won his game against Prague. Sorry, Firuza won against Dominguez.
I was just going to say that Ali Reza comes in, and Nepo, by the way, also tied for first. Very intriguing game, but what games are ongoing?
I think they're all finished.
We're all done. Okay, Noderberg. And how did Nepo
Hikaru
do?
was winning after g4, e6, right? Because I saw the Val bar go all the way up.
I was watching